Toxic productivity is an epidemic. It specifically tends to hit millennials and Gen Z the hardest, but everyone and anyone can experience it. The constant need to feel like every minute of your day must be filled with tasks is ridiculous and doesn't get you toward your ultimate goal. It can actually make you sick. So if you suffer from toxic productivity, you might be wondering what you can do to overcome it and still accomplish your goals. I have 6 tips that you can start doing today. Let's get into it.
Hey y'all, I'm Ashley Janelle and thank you so much for coming back to my channel. Like I mentioned, today we are talking all about toxic productivity. We have all been guilty of it, so let's go ahead and jump right in the 6 tips that I have for you to overcome it. So the first tip that I have for you guys is going to be one that's probably a little bit controversial, but it's okay. And that is, it is okay to not get everything done on your task list. That's right, if no one told you, it is fine. You know, I think that task lists are really important because they are essentially a brain dump of everything that we need to do for the day or for the week, everything that we need to get done. And sometimes when we make these long lists and we say, okay, this is what I'm going to do for today, we expect ourselves to be able to get it done. But one thing that we have to remember is that it is essentially, like I mentioned, a brain dump. And a lot of times our brains can compute a lot faster than we can actually physically do something. So while you're actually getting it out from your head onto paper, and it may seem like, oh, I can get this all done, today. Obviously, life happens, things get in the way, our day doesn't necessarily go as planned or as expected, therefore we are only able to get some of the tasks done. So what I typically like to do is I like to put my tasks that are going to take a lot more energy from me and that are going to actually take longer at the top, and get those things done because I'm more of a morning person. I like to get things done that require a lot from me earlier in the day. And then the tasks that don't require so much of me, I like to push those to the later part of the day. But either way, it is totally fine if you do not get everything done. I think we need to remember that we are not robots, we are not machines, we are human beings. And while we feel like everything is important, it is okay to go to bed knowing that I still have a few tasks from today that are gonna roll over. It is totally fine. The next tip that I have for you guys is one that I'm still trying to practice myself, and that is to limit the amount of reminders that we set on our phones. So if you are a reminders person or you have a reminders app on your phone and you use it and you like to, set reminders for, let's say you're going to be out of the house and you need to remember to do something at a particular time when you're going to be out, or, in the house or something like that, you need to actually remember to do something at a specific time. I think this can be a little bit tricky, but what I will say is first write all of your tasks down. Then figure out which ones need to actually be timely and actually, which tasks you actually need to set, an alarm for or some kind of notification for. The reason for that is this. A lot of times we're ahead of ourselves when we are making our task list and when we're talking about the things that we want to be able to do. And we are not necessarily taking into consideration that when the time actually comes for me to do the thing that I've just set a notification for myself to do, I may not necessarily be in the headspace or be in the right place physically to actually get that task done. So what happens, we get the notification, it pops up on our phone or on our watch, and now we are not in a place or in a space to do it, and we feel like a failure. Sometimes that notification pops up and we know right then and there, I'm not gonna get to that today. And what happens? You feel like a failure, you feel like it's your fault, you feel like, you should have been working faster or harder, or, we feel like all these things when really it's like, it's okay. So what I like to do is I try to reserve those notifications that have to go off on my phone, if I have to do that, for things that are very important. Like, okay, I know I'm going to be out at the house at this time. I'm supposed to be, picking up something from, running an errand. Let me remind myself to actually stop at the store or to actually do this while I'm out. I'm going to remind myself around 3:00. That's when I should be, headed that way. Do you see what I'm saying? And the rest of the tasks, I would really implore you to write down, because even when you get that notification on your phone, again, sometimes you may not necessarily be in that space or in that place. And again, you're feeling already like you are behind when you're naturally not. So that is one thing that I want us to try to get out of the habit of doing. That really breathes into that toxic productivity. because we feel like we're being productive because we're getting these notifications. But when we hit snooze or when we hit remind me later or remind me tomorrow, a lot of times that makes us feel worse almost. So I would really implore you to get most of your tasks out on paper, or type them out on your notes app or what have you, and reserve the notifications that are going to go off on your phone for something that is very, very important. So we're going to go ahead and get into tip number 3. But before we do, make sure that you go ahead and click that subscribe button if you haven't already. I don't want you to miss out on any of the amazing content that I have coming up. So tip number 3 is going to be something that is very similar to tip number 2. And that is, it is very much okay to not run all of those errands in one day. I know it sounds crazy. It probably is something that is foreign to you, as it is foreign to me. I am really trying to, get with this concept of it is okay to not do the things that I felt like I needed to do that day. But it is really okay. How many times have you had this laundry list of errands that you needed to run, and then by the time you get home, you are exhausted, you are depleted, you have nothing left to give yourself or anyone else because you are exhausted? Because you've just run around the whole city, you've stopped to see this person, you've picked up groceries, you've done all of these things. But now what? Now what are you able to do? Are you, completely exhausted making dinner, or completely exhausted mentally trying to help your kids with their homework? So I want us to remember, and also kind of give ourselves permission to say, it is okay if I did not run that last errand or those last 2 errands. I will get to it tomorrow. I will get to it later this week or on the weekend. It is really, really okay. That also really feeds into this toxic productivity. That is toxic. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, to feel like a failure because you are trying to do the things that you need to do. You should never feel like a failure because you are doing a great job. But our tasks list not getting crossed off at the end of the day, each task makes us feel like failures. And I am here to tell you, it is totally okay. Come home early, get home a little bit earlier than you expected, have more energy to give to your friends, to give to your family, to give to your kids. Don't be depleted at the end of the day. I think we need to stop that as well. Just, the expectation that I'm just going to be so tired at the end of the day because I've done this and I've done that and I've done this. Like, it's very toxic. And we need to start to get to a place where we can understand and recognize that, and we can call it out for what it is. So it's okay if you don't run those errands. So the next tip is actually something I've already been talking about, and that is to actually make a list. Create a list. If you are not a list person, I want you to try to become a list person. I actually have a notebook that I actually use and I love. You can have something like this. You can have something that's probably like half the size of this. That's just more like a little notepad where you can write down, all of your quick thoughts and all of your quick to-dos or what you're going to make for dinner. Start to make lists. Start to enjoy the satisfaction of actually crossing things off at the end of the task being done. It is very, very rewarding. And, like I said, I use my notebook at the beginning of the day, or whenever I know that I need to do something, I use it as a brain dump. A lot of times we're in the shower or we're just doing something, completely, unrelated, and we have all these things going in our mind. A lot of times it happens to me when I'm working out. I just start thinking of all these things that I need to do for the day. And when I'm done, that is when I go and I write in my notebook all of the things that I need to do. And as I do them, I cross them off. So if you are not a notes person, please become a notes person in 2023. It doesn't have to be physical. It could be, online, or get some sort of an app or something like that. But definitely start to become a notes person if you are not already. I can guarantee you it also frees up your brain. It frees up your mind from all the things that we have going on. We have a million tabs open in our head at the same time. And it's really nice to not have to remember things that you need to do, and you can save that space for other things that you need to remember, or that you need to do, or that are really on your mind or really heavy for you. We don't need to have tasks take up open tabs in our brain when we can simply put them somewhere, i.e. a brain dump. It's very easy, very quick, very efficient, and it's not going anywhere. That's the other thing too. A lot of times we forget and we're like, oh wait, I know that I was supposed to do something, and then we remember what it was when it's past the time that we were actually supposed to do it. So if you haven't already, start making lists. So the last tip that I have for you guys is a very important tip. It has worked for me wonders for the last several years. I have been doing this. And that is to recognize when I am about to hit a lull in my productivity. So I'll explain. So I work from home, and there are times where I am just, I'm busy working and I'm, doing all of my things that I need to do. And then maybe at about 11:30, 12 o'clock, I start to hit a lull. I start to get really hungry, or I start to just feel like I need a step away from my computer. I need to go do something else. I need to eat. I just need to do something completely mindless. And a lot of times we know when that is going to start to creep in. Again, a lot of times for me, it's when I start to get hungry. Or like I said, it's when you start to feel like I need to step away. And a lot of times we can feel that coming maybe a half an hour, 15 minutes before it actually sets in. Because when it sets in and you actually try to power through it, nothing gets accomplished, like seriously, right? Like nothing actually gets done. Or if it does get done, it's halfway because we weren't really into it. So I like to recognize when this is going to happen. And I have things that I do during that time. So I will maybe make lunch, go eat lunch. Or I will maybe fold some laundry that I need to do, or maybe start up some laundry that I need to do. I do something completely unrelated, but the key is to do something that is also on your to-do list. Eating lunch is definitely always on your to-do list, so that's kind of a given. But things like folding laundry, or maybe you got a late start, you need to take a shower, like whatever it is, maybe you have planned a small workout during your day. That is when you go and do those things, because you will come back to your work or to whatever it was that you were doing a lot more productive than you would have before had you kept powering through it. So depending on whatever it is that you're doing, whatever task it is that you're trying to get done, whether it's work related or maybe it's yard work outside or whatever it is, remember that there are going to be lull periods, and there are going to be periods where you are like, okay, I need to completely step away from this, and figure out, during those times, what are some of the things you need to get done. Honestly, a lot of times during those low periods, you probably just need to take a step away from everything. Take a step away, maybe go sit on the couch, maybe scroll, your favorite apps, see what's going on in the world, completely just check out, and then come back and be refreshed. A lot of times it's, maybe listening to a podcast, or maybe listening to, some music or what have you, and you feel like, okay, I want to do this while I'm doing something else, like maybe cleaning out a cabinet or doing some laundry, or, whatever it is. But it is all about remembering that trying to power through something because you just have to get it done never works. It just doesn't. And if it does, things are not done in the way that they could be done. They're not done to the best of your ability. So being actually productive is actually planning for those moments during the day where you're going to be like, you know what, I need to step away from this right now. And it is what you do with that time that matters. I'm always going to be a proponent, like I said, of just completely doing nothing and just, kind of chilling out for a minute. But again, those mindless tasks are also something that, could be really good for you. If you are someone who sits at a desk all day, sometimes it's nice to get up and actually move around and actually feel like you're getting something done. So maybe listening to a podcast while you're putting up your laundry is actually, a good thing, or maybe putting up the dishes or what have you. So forecasting those times for when they happen, because they will happen, and what you're actually going to do with that time is going to be key. That's going to wrap up the video for today. Let me know in the comments what tips actually resonated for you. I'm really curious to hear. I'm also curious to hear if you guys have any tips on things that you do to overcome toxic productivity. So leave those in the comments for me as well. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.